Here's my review of Abbott Elementary Season 2. I thought that this was another very solid season, and this is a show that is completely character driven, obviously, and is very episodic. But one thing that I think also happened in this season and kind of felt weird to me, but I kind of liked it, was there was still an ongoing plot for the most part with um Janine and with Janine and Gregory, kind of they have like a will they won't they kind of relationship, and it's one of those things like you kind of know from the very beginning though. Like I mean, even back in season one, it's very obvious that Gregory likes Janine, so it's really just a matter of time before like she finds out and like is it gonna happen? Is it not? Because also in this another plot that happens is Janine kind of gets back with Maurice, like her ex boyfriend, for a little bit, or at least like she's like, oh, we're kind of just hanging out. Like, will we date? Will they? Won't? And she's like, just seeing, is it right to date him? And there, that's what I think this show is very good at. It's like when you have characters that are so charming, you could have very simplistic plots, and just you were interested in their lives. And I think that's what this show does so well. Another character I think is a big standout here is Jacob. He's really wasn't in like he was in season one, but I think he's kind of got a lot more to do here. Like you kind of learn more about him, and I mean his personality is kind of very bombastic. He's kind of very loud and still like a very charming way, as he's both meek and at the same time very hyper. So he's just a very entertaining character to watch, and I think that he was kind of a standout here. And another character that we get to meet is Aisha, who is Janine's sister. And she's played by Ayo Edebiri, and I love her in The Bear. So it was really cool to see her here. And this kind of had like one of those things where I thought that was really funny. It's kind of, you see it in a bunch of different shows where, like, of course, like, even though like Ava doesn't really like Janine, she like immediately attaches onto Aisha, which is just really funny. That always happens, I think, in a lot of shows, and it was done very well here. Like, it's like the classic, oh, I don't like you, but then I like your sibling. It's always just kind of funny, and I thought that it was played really well here. And like I said, I love Ayo Edebiri. She's fantastic in The Bear, and she was great here too. So it was just really cool, even though she's not in it that much. It's really nice, and you get to learn a lot more about her home life. You get to learn like kind of how they kind of grew apart, and it's just very interesting because I mean, Janine kind of talks about how she left their family and then she had to take care of her mom at certain points. And it's very interesting. And we also do get to meet Janine's mom. And she's kind of the worst, which is really interesting. And I think what's so funny is she kind of reminds me a lot of Ava, and Ava ends up really liking her, which I find very interesting. And she's like, I think that it was done very well here, as Janine is basically like, I know what she is and I know what she does, but I love her because she's my mom. And she's a very interesting character because, I mean, she comes off as kind of unlikable, but also likable at the same time. And I think that's very tricky to pull off. Like, for the most part, she's not really that good of a person. But like in many ways, you kind of do feel bad for her, and I think that that is kind of difficult to pull off. So I give her props here. And another thing that I think this season does well is we kind of dive more into this world where they go to like this teachers conference, and I thought that was very fun. I mean, you get to learn a lot more about these characters and just learn about more of the school system, and it's just very interesting. And there's also a very fun Halloween episode. I thought that was just really fun. I mean, every kind of show does it, and this one's no different. But of course, with this one taking place in a school, you get to see a lot of unique costumes, and I thought they looked pretty cool, especially considering like, did they do them themselves, like within the world? Like, cause I'm like, these are pretty talented teachers. Cause I'm like, you have someone like I don't know how she would be able to get the white eyes for Storm. I don't know how Ava is able to do that, but hey, that's pretty cool. And then, like I said, I think that this also does very well. It kind of touches more on Janine's relationship with Gregory, and like I said, it's a very good episode. I thought that was one of the standouts. Another really good episode was there was an episode where Janine was sick, so then Ava had to watch over her class. And that was a hilarious episode because, of course, we know that Ava is very incompetent and she doesn't even know how to, she doesn't know anything about being a principal. And of course, she doesn't even know anything about like kids, which is ironic considering she works in elementary school. So that was a very funny episode where, like I said, it's just Ava having no clue what to do. She's like, oh, do whatever you want. And I thought that was a really standout episode. And I think one really emotional part is probably the part when they go to like this on this field trip to this museum, and they kind of like talk about how they both do like each other, but they realize it's probably for the best that they don't really do anything with it. And I think that it was kind of a I don't know what the word is. It's kind of sad, but also kind of like sweet at the same time. And it's really just nice to see. It's like it's okay for these characters to just be friends. And who knows? Maybe they'll do something in season three. Maybe they actually will get together. Who knows? But I thought it was still done very well here. And I also thought that Jacob was another very standout character of this season. With you kind of getting to learn more about him, and like I said, he's kind of got a very hyper energetic personality, so he's always very fun to watch. And I thought that he was one of the standouts of this episode, or this season, I should say. And for the most part, the season just ends with them kind of all being friends, and I think that's okay. And like I think that that means that there's a really cool dynamic between the three of these characters, and I think that would be kind of cool because for the most part, they're never really together in this show. It's kind of either like Jacob's with Janine or Jacob's with Gregory, and I feel like they're never really the three of them. So it's very interesting to see them kind of interact together, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. And I think that also Melissa and then Barbara also get some pretty good moments, but they're not like get any super standout moments enough to like go too in depth, but they're still nice. Like of course Melissa is kind of very aggressive and loud, which is very fun to see, and then Barbara is very kind of keeps to herself and very sweet and nice. So I mean they're kind of more the same, but overall I still really liked them. Like and then a character like I forgot his name, Mr. Johnson, the janitor, right here. But he also gets some pretty nice moments. He's always very funny to have on screen, and he also kind of reminds me of a worker that I know. So I thought that he's kind of funny in this. And like I said, I overall I thought that this was a very solid season. I didn't really have any major problems with it, and I think it is great. But I think that season one is better simply because of the fact that there is more of Ava, who is my favorite character because she's the funniest character in this show. But that's not necessarily this season's fault, so I'm not going to fault it for that. So overall, I would say that it is still a very good season. It's still a very good show. And like I said, the only problem is just not enough of my favorite character. But overall, I had really no problems with this season. I thought it was a very solid season.